Hey everyone, my name is Nomi Handler of The Art Truth, and today we're going to be talking about our northern neighbors, the Canadians. And there has been a lot of talk coming out of Canada ever since April 28th, which was the day the election took place, and Mark Carney and the Liberal Party managed to retain their seats or their hold on power within the House of Commons for a fourth consecutive time. Fourth. And already this has caused a huge amounts of uproar. And it's not, from what I understand, it still hasn't been a week yet. As I'm making this video on May 3rd, Saturday, it's been 5 days since the Canadian election. Hell, today there's been some talk, there's been a rally in Alberta, which is the main topic of this video, because honestly, Western Canada is very pissed, and more specifically, Alberta, because Alberta has been dealing with a whole lot of issues that have been, honestly, it's been going on for such a long time. I could go from just their government system of how the Senate seats are proportioned by population as well as that of the House of Commons, to the point where both Canada and Quebec have about 60% representation within the House of Commons. That means that you need the two provinces to say we're not voting Liberal in order to allow the Conservatives in. That's about it. Even if all the other provinces were to unite with the Conservatives, Ontario and Quebec would just have that veto power. And honestly, that's a lot of problem. That's very, very frustrating. And there's a whole lot of other stuff, like the equalization payments, where basically Alberta is redistributing its wealth, is forced to redistribute its wealth that's been gained from oil payments to the rest of Canada. Basically, they're the ones making bank for Canada at this moment, while others are not really doing that as well. And then there's also a lot of the taxes, such as the carbon tax, and a lot of the environmental regulations that are just stifling them from actually extracting oil from their reserves, which, by the way, are a lot. From what I've heard, they have like 160 billion barrels in Saskatchewan, in Alberta. That is the world's third largest oil reserves. That is insane to me. And of course, with that, it doesn't help with the fact that Alberta, as well as the prairie provinces of Manitoba, and neighboring Saskatchewan, have happened to be major strongholds for Conservatives in Canada. They have been explicitly against the Liberals for so long, for several decades now, that such frustration has just been boiling up to this very point that right now, after the election of Mark Carney and the Liberals, and with them trying to form a government, there's talks about the possibility that Alberta may separate. Now, I don't know what's going to happen if the referendum will actually occur, if the referendum will actually pass, or even if Alberta will become its own separate country, or even a territory or a future U.S. state. No one knows. Hell, I even heard talk about the rest of the other Western provinces, from Manitoba, even to British Columbia, and even the Yukon and Northwest territories, joining up to form their own separate nation. Probably the Republic of Western Canada. I have no idea. They have to come up with a better name than that. But either way, there's been so much talk. And it is likely that this election has been the final straw, because Alberta for several decades has just been what they actually call an abusive relationship, because again, they're the ones who are bankrolling the rest of Canada, while the rest of the other provinces are just basically spending all of that money for themselves, not really giving much back for Alberta, which honestly I can understand why there are a lot of people within Alberta that definitely want to secede from Canada as a result of that. By the way, as it turns out, Danielle Smith, the premier, which is basically the Canadian version of a governor of Alberta, she passed a vote within Alberta to lower the threshold of getting from 600,000 verified signatures in certain parts of Alberta to getting 177,000 throughout all of Alberta. And she increased the time from 90 days to 120 days, making this referendum very possible. I'm not joking. This could be a major change that will be going on with our northern neighbors. And, man, I'm just... This could be history in the making, because there's a clear division between West Canada as well as East Canada. East Canada is heavily liberal and heavily urbanized. I'm not saying that there isn't some urbanization going on in some liberals in Western Canada. I mean, just take a look at the map. Hell, the fact Vancouver in British Columbia is what's keeping the rest of British Columbia a liberal province instead of a conservative one. Even though if you looked at the rural parts of it, it tends to vote pretty much conservative. But I'm digressing. There is that major disconnect, and a lot of people just kind of wish that possibly if Pierre Poilievre, even if Pierre Poilievre won, there could have been at least some concessions made to maybe lower the burden for Albertans and the rest of Western Canada. I mean, to be fair, he has to deal with the fact that Ontario and Quebec basically hold the cards again with the representation issue. But nonetheless, it could have at least given Canada a few more years. Now with Mark Carney, who is now being officially the Prime Minister of Canada, it has become the last straw. And people are just done. They don't want to deal with another 4 years, and this is why they're going on with their referendum. And there's also, I would argue, a generational issue as well, because as you all know, Donald Trump has been talking about the idea of making Canada the 51st state, which if he's talking about making all of Canada into one conglomerate at kind of like in the shape of it, so kind of like the shape of the country it is now, and making that an entire state, I would not be for that. But if he was talking about, say, certain parts of Canada that are willing to join us, then I would be fine with that. Hell, I would personally I think it would be better, though, if they start off as territories and that sort of thing. But anyway, he talked about that, as well as adding tariffs, adding reciprocal tariffs against Canada. And there's been this tariff war ever since, and he's been doing a lot of this talking. And as a result of that, many people within the older generation, the boomers of Canada, decided to vote for the Liberal Party. Why? Because their main issue was primarily Donald Trump, trying to find someone who could stand up to him. Meanwhile, people who are in Generation Z or the millennials, they voted in the majority for the conservatives because they are having to deal with the issue of the cost of living, they're dealing with the issue of lack of housing, and of course, there's the economy. There's a whole lot of this stuff that's been going on, and they thought that the conservatives would be able to get that. I mean, after all, the liberals haven't done really much anyway. For the last decade, I would like to mention. But yet, in spite of that, the boomers won out. And now, who knows what's going to happen? I have no idea what's going to happen, to be honest with you. But it's clear that there are a lot of problems currently going on within Canada. Like a whole lot. And honestly, it's very... I would say Alberta is a pin to a grenade that's basically holding Canada together at this point, not Quebec. In spite of the fact that Quebec actually made a referendum back in 1995 and nearly passed, I would say Alberta is the one who could potentially break apart what Canada is right now, mainly because of the fact that it is the one that is the most prosperous province in Canada. Here's the thing. If Alberta leaves, it takes all of its wealth, its oil with it, whether it becomes like another country or a part of the United States. And plus, it would probably bring neighboring Saskatchewan in as well. And that basically causes the Canadian economy to collapse. And I would even argue it cuts off a lot of the other provinces, such as British Columbia, from the rest of East Canada. Because, just need to remind you, most Canadians live 150 miles north of the border with the United States. If Alberta falls, a lot of that infrastructure is basically in another country. Either way, it's in another country. And and this could mean that Alberta would also be a major domino effect. I also mentioned with Saskatchewan, probably even Manitoba, British Columbia, Yukon, Northern Territories, etc. All of Western Canada would just be gone away from Ottawa. And there's a likely possibility of that happening. Now, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, because you have to get 50 plus 1, and there's going to have to be some negotiations. There's a little bit of a process there. But it's still there. There's a high chance at this point. Prior to the election, 30% in Alberta were willing to vote for separation if the Liberals won. Same numbers with Saskatchewan, between 30 to 35%. And that's a big number. And I'm pretty sure it's grown 100%. And it's especially true with the youth. With people between 18 to 35, 43% are actually willing to join the United States if they get U.S. citizenship, as well as an exchange for Canadian dollars, like a one-to-one. It is very possible. Now, again, who knows what the future may hold? Who knows if this referendum will even occur this year? What I do know, though, is that Alberta is definitely the province you need to look after. Because if Alberta goes, so will the rest of Western Canada. My name is Noah Meehan on The Arc of Truth. Please post your comments down below directly, or like this video, subscribe directly to message me. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak or whatever, please post it in the comment section down below or directly message me. Thank you.
West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.